Howdy, welcome back to my bedroom workshop. Today I have a bit of a change of pace in projects because I'm actually making something with no function at all today, all aesthetics. Usually it's all function, no aesthetics. Many times throughout the history of my YouTube channel, you might have heard me mention a movie that me and my friends made a couple years ago. Whenever I've used one of these 2x4s that has some chrome paint on it, some of these plywood sheets that were painted black, even this scrap ductwork, all of that stuff came off of a very ambitious short film, or turned into a full-length film that me and my friends made. We didn't know what we were doing at all during the production, but we went for it anyway. I did most of the set building, a lot of the props, and that project taught us a lot of what we know about filmmaking, but the film never got finished. We did all the filming in one summer as a last hurrah before a lot of us graduated from college and went away to our first jobs, and that footage kind of sat on hard drives for a couple of years, but now it's resurfacing and we're finally finishing the film. And as set designer, prop master, there's one last thing I have to do. It's a sci-fi film and there's some transition scenes of spaceships flying around between planets. I want to do that all practical effects, very classic. I think that just always looks best. So it's time to make a little spaceship miniature. This is gonna be mostly improvised. I don't have a major plan, but I figure I'll start off with some scrap wood. Now, before I get into the aesthetic decisions of how this spaceship is gonna look, there's some baseline parameters I have to figure out. First off, for practical effects, filmmaking, how big should this thing be? I'm definitely gonna 3D print a lot of parts for it to make details and such, but obviously the bigger it is, that's gonna take way longer, which is why I'm gonna base it off a piece of wood. But if I go too small, then there's not as much detail and it's just not gonna look that good on a big screen. It doesn't matter too much because it was a very low budget film and we didn't know what we were doing when we filmed it, but still, I want this to be good. So here's my thought process. The actual shots of this spaceship flying around on a space backdrop, I'm gonna film on my 24mm anamorphic lens, because that's sci-fi, man. So let's say the ship is this long, maybe 7 inches or so. It's flying around in space. With this exact framing and size, the visible background is about 3-4 feet. I need to keep all this in mind because I'm gonna make a practical effects backdrop too, and I don't want that to be too large, obviously. Yeah, I'm comfortable making a 3-foot backdrop for this later on. 6 inches for the miniature, good target. So I'm picturing like cockpit up here, boosters on the back. Let's just chop this whole thing down. Maybe like lower at the top, higher at the bottom. We're not doing construction here, so we don't have to worry about straight cuts. That is the start of our spaceship. I think now would be a good time to give my buddy John a call, the director, writer, and producer of this film. I'm just gonna pick his brain a little bit, somewhat of a refresher for both of us because we filmed this thing so long ago, and get some ideas for his vision of this first spaceship. Okay, so if I remember right, there's 3 ships that need to be made for these miniature shots, right?
Yep, we've got the Boogieman, which is the hero's ship.
Yep.
Silent Wake, one of the villains, and then the other villain, Isaac.
So the Boogeyman is like kind of scrappy, like the good guys. They don't have the coolest stuff within the universe. It's like an older model kind of thing.
Yeah, older model, boxy, doesn't probably look that fast. Kind of just it's something that gets him by. It's really not that special.
Okay, I like that. I'm thinking like abstract. It's almost like asymmetrical, like it's a little screwed up, you know?
Oh, yes. Yeah, if like one side of it could have like a certain, like a gun or a cockpit or making it not look.
Does it have a gun
really
on
fast.
it in the plot? I don't remember.
That's a great question. As the writer of the movie, that's I would know that.
I'll cut back to our brainstorming session in a second when we're talking actual features of the ship. I've adjusted my wedge shape to give me a little something to work off of. Since we're going for sort of slow, not that agile, I'm going to make this fatter end the front. And for the color palette, I'm going to 3D print the accessories with this brown. So the base of the entire thing's going to be that color. Then I paint over it with some like gray, chrome, white. I'm sure I'll fade in a couple different earth tones of paint. And then my plan is to weather it and dry brush it with some regular acrylics, then maybe some metallic spray paints for some shiny parts. That's the general strategy, so now time to design some actual parts.
It's got a hyperdrive.
Yeah, so we'll have 2 engines, but like a crappy one and like a big one.
Yeah, and then it does have a ramp that's in the back, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
how you can go up into it. It's because there's times when the characters kind of run up into the ship too.
Yeah, so big port door on the back. To make it accurate to the physical set, the main bay was an octagon.
Main bay was an octagon that we were all in, and then there were doors that came out from there. So you could maybe have like an octagonal kind of bridge or main area, and then like tunnel-ish stuff that comes off the side, looking really funky and, you know, not practical.
Yeah. Some like broken landing gear, so like the landing gear's always out or something stupid like that.
That's good. He always does a semi-crash landing.
Yeah.
Just kind of, it just keeps breaking it over and over.
Okay, I think that does it for the boogeyman then. Now we can start 3D printing some stuff so it looks like an actual spaceship. The most important parts to get it in the ballpark are the front cabin control center octagon and some big old thrusters on the back. I know we're like 5 minutes in and I just have an abstract block of wood, but trust the process. There's the exact dimensions of the real set, and I'm just gonna add random stuff to make it look more interesting. I'm not gonna go too crazy on these parts because I'm comfortable with 3D modeling for functional stuff, but when it comes to artistic sculpting in here, I got nothing. For these thrusters, literally all I'm gonna do is sketch one crazy line and then revolve it all the way around. Kinda just using this as like a computer version of a lathe. Boom, sci-fi thruster. Yeah. So we got the hyperdrive thruster, the regular thruster, and the basics of the bay. So this is like the main room, and then this is the cockpit made to scale off the actual set. So that can slot right on there onto the 2x4, and these will sit like here and here. We're getting somewhere. Yeah, that'll do. Now I'm just gonna make a bunch of these tubes that I can use for mounting things and maybe also adding detail. I'm doing that in plastic so I can melt them to other components. But I suppose for these I can just use wood dowels. With movie prop stuff, it's always good to remember to not overcook anything. During this video, you and I are seeing this ship way more than it'll be seen in the actual movie. There's no reason to worry too much about the top or the bottom because I think in all 3 or 4 shots that you see it in, it's mostly from the side. The extra fun thing about movie props is you only have to worry about it holding up for as long as it takes to get the shots. There's no sense being too worried about the structure. I think I'll probably dress these up and integrate them into the ship by like running wires along the sides, have it looking real crazy. This is looking somewhat spaceship-like now. I'm gonna chamfer down this edge below the cab, and then story-wise in this main bay there's a door back here that leads back to I guess a hallway that goes to the rear door, but there's also a door to like a maintenance room on this wall. I'm kind of making up story for things as I go, but I'm imagining like this was the stock thruster on this thing, they added the hyperdrive later, and maybe there's an addition that's for maintenance controls for this unit, and that's what I'm saying this door is within the movie. So we'll add a little something here with crazy cables that connect up to this unit, and then this side's pretty bare, so I'll print off some venting and various texture to glue on there. So here's our little maintenance room that's gonna go there. Any little feature I add here is really gonna pop once I throw some paint on there. So I'm just gonna add a bunch of little ports and ductwork. And then on this side of the ship, I want one big vent, or maybe 2. Yeah, just something like that. They cross over a little bit. And I'm actually gonna print 2 of these because I feel like it could be useful elsewhere. This is a pretty fun, creative flow. I design something while I'm waiting for it to print, then I can start to incorporate things on the physical model. By the time I'm done with this, the next thing will be done printing. And while I'm at it, I can actually smooth out some of these layer lines a little bit. I'm not gonna worry about them too much because this thing is supposed to be metal, so I feel like that's good texture, but in some spots, remove it just so there's some variation. And any rough texture is just gonna end up looking like dirt, space debris, dings and scratches. Actually, I can just add some scratches intentionally. Ding up this radiator a little bit. I don't know why I'm adding vents to this, because it's space, but it flies around in atmosphere too. Bang up this edge a little bit, especially on the front end. Maybe some little bullet holes. Dude, look at that texture. We're getting somewhere. I want to make some motor mounts for these thrusters, so I'm just gonna cut one of these pegs in half, melt a little angle into it so it can go right up to there. Something like that. And And actually, I didn't expect it, but melting the plastic actually kind of makes it stick to the wood. Same sort of thing for thruster on this side. And all these melt marks are just gonna look like a really crappy welding job, which makes sense in the story. Now, where do I want these tubes to go? I think I'm just gonna join them up at this end and then have the other side kind of funnel in. Maybe add some texture along those. Big old scrape line across the top from running into things. And a little hole in the back for whatever this tube does. Gotta scratch up these thrusters a bunch. Maybe there's a big chunk taken out of the back. A significant scrape on the side. A bunch of gravel marks on the bottom. It's all about just whatever makes sense, I guess. I suppose I can add marks to the wood with the soldering iron too. The coolest part about this is the fume extractor that I'm using to get rid of the plastic fumes is literally a set dressing vent from this ship. This piece of ductwork used to be running down here. Oh, I don't even know if I mentioned it yet, but the piece of wood that I'm building this out of also came from the original set, kind of full circle. This is really starting to come together, dude. I can't wait to put paint on it. These vents can get attached up on this side. I have to kind of work around the motor mounts that I just added, but I can just get it to melt through. And this side where it's coming up to the cab, I'm just gonna melt the bottom so it can bend a bit. Get that all attached up. And boom, instantly way better. Now this little maintenance room is done. I'm just gonna heat up this whole side and this whole side. It should fuse nicely. That actually feels very secure. Throw some more random tubing in there. Whenever I need a bit of extra material, I can use scraps or support material from other prints. And that'll do. Then I'm gonna use some of this like wire conduit plastic wrapping. And then the back end can just get sent into the thruster somewhere. That's looking pretty good. We got some empty space up here, so I'm just gonna swipe a bit off of this. Maybe I just send a random screw into the side of the wood, because why the heck not? Cool. Now all this needs to paint it is cut the windows, landing gear, the back door, and I think it would make sense to have some small takeoff thrusters, like vertically angled. So this is just gonna be a little door with a control panel to the side. Throw a bunch of little buttons on there, and then some little landing gear. That there's good enough. And then just a tiny little thruster with a simple mount on the side. Okay, I have a bunch of little bits printed now. I'll start by just super gluing on this door. Then the landing gear can go on. Sweet. And I actually printed 2 different sizes of these, so I've got extra bits that I could use to reinforce them somehow. Lovely. And we can get some little takeoff thrusters going. I'm gonna put them at an angle. They're facing outwards a little bit. Now I just gotta put the windows into the bay. For now, I'm just gonna put little divots in there. And I'll melt some extra stuff on there, cause why not? And this side gets a little X-shaped detail. Maybe an extra little bit of vent as well. The front of this whole cab is gonna be glass, so I'll paint that like glossy something. And at this point, I'm all out of bits to add. I could throw some support material here. That kind of looks cool. And another one up here. And with that, it's finally time to paint the spaceship. The Boogieman. I was gonna say now this is gonna be the fun part, but I'm not gonna lie, I've been having a blast this whole time. But this is the part where this is really gonna come alive. Now, because I'm probably gonna be scraping through some of this paint, I kinda have to think backwards. To get it to look rusty, I'm gonna start with some like red primer. And it's nice that we have a brown base, because if I go all the way through, that's gonna look good too. We're scratching it up anyway, so I don't have to worry about making marks on it or anything. With that dry, I'm gonna spray some black on the bottom. By intentionally spray painting only one direction, you can kind of get some cool effects. So with the bottom coated in black, when I spray it from the top with my actual main color, I'm only spraying directly downwards here. So we've already got some cool variation in color depending on the texture. You can see the magic happening already. So if this ship is supposed to be kind of scrapped together, it wouldn't make sense for the base coat on everything to be the same. So I'm gonna mask off a couple things, just this hyperdrive and the maintenance room on the side, and just paint those a sand color, like a different gray. And the rest I'll just do with brushes, so to lock all this in, I'm just gonna spray it down with the matte clear coat. John did say he didn't want this ship to be too drab. I mean, it is a comedy movie. I'm just gonna add some like yellow, orange up here. Maybe some green on this band of the hyperdrive. Fade it out towards the bottom where it would be more weathered. I mixed that up with some blue to make this kind of dark purple gray. We're just gonna do these tubes on the top with that. And I'm literally just mixing random colors on my desk as I go. It doesn't really matter if I'm a bit messy here. It's less about the thing and more about the suggestion of a thing. I'm thinking if I mix this blue with this olive green, darken that up with some black, that could be cool for the landing gear. Maybe even a band of this rocket. Okay, well, I just kind of screwed up the entire top side of this thing, and I wasn't even recording, apparently. I tried to do the thing where you brush on the whole thing with watered down paint, but I accidentally used thinned out paint with alcohol, and I wasn't thinking about it, and that ate through the other paint that I already had on it. But that's okay, it still looks cool, it's just darker than I want it to be right now. How about I try that again with watered down paint instead, see if that works better. Yeah, that's working, that's what I was supposed to do. See that? See how it's just sticking down into the low spots? And then the rest I can just wipe right off. Now it looks authentically dirty. Here, this box will be a good demonstration. And it makes all that texture just pop. It's gonna do great on this as well. And on the big thruster, this is gonna look crazy. Not the best execution of that effect. It's been a long time since I've done this, but you get the idea. Now this whole thing is a lot darker than I originally intended because I screwed up the top. So I'm gonna do a minor reset up there by just dusting on some chrome. Okay, that helps. I do have to remember what I was saying earlier about not overworking it. It's only going to be on screen for a couple seconds. Just a couple little final touches. I printed off this fan blade for this hyperdrive. Just going to put a little bit of black paint on that. Yeah, that'll do. Then I'm just going to add some little metal scratch marks here and there. Spray painting this block of wood silver and kind of scraping that on some things. Just hitting all the little sharp edges with that. Now, one of the final and most important details is this windshield. I've been kind of avoiding this because I'm afraid to screw it up, but I think I gotta just go for it and see what happens. I don't really know what I'm doing on this, but I figure I should start with just some black. Maybe fade in a little bit of dark gray across the top and bottom. A touch of dry brushing around the edge with some even lighter gray. A little bit of brown around the edges even. Some white around the edges to give it kind of the effect of glare. Should help sell it as glass. Let's see what that looks like in context. Oh yeah, I think that works. A little bit of clear coat on there. Or really I should give the whole thing a new clear coat. Just to lock in the final look. And there we go. That's a little spaceship man. I'm trying to like simulate the lighting that it's gonna have for these actual miniature shots in the movie. It's gonna be flying around with the anamorphic flares. I'm sure I'll add lighting coming out of the thrusters too. This is so sick. I think that's more than enough for the effect I'm going for. Because it's not gonna have any close-ups. It's gonna be like this big on screen, and at that size, you don't even notice any of the mistakes. The back end looks awesome for the shot where it lands on a planet. This is such like a full circle moment for me, man. Most of my studio is built out of wood that came from this set. I'm gonna have a little sentimental yap session here for a second. The full story of the production of this movie is gonna have a whole documentary that I'll make on this channel at some point. But regardless how good the movie actually comes out or how good the props may be, just recklessly jumping into that project in a lot of ways is what started my filmmaking career that I'm on now. And that's true for me and for a lot of my friends too. We had no idea what we were doing. For me, it was kind of a weird between phase. I had just shut down a long creative endeavor that I'd been doing for like 5 years and was trying to figure out what would be next. I knew I loved making things. I knew I loved problem solving, but in building a lot of those sets and the props with a storytelling approach, I realized I really, really loved that. So that kind of helped dwindle down a lot of the ideas I had going on in my head. And I said, all right, I'm just going to continue on this path. literally the day after we wrapped filming on this movie. John, the mastermind behind it, one of my closest friends, flew out to Colorado to start his new job in engineering, and that same day I packed up all my stuff into my crappy little Hyundai, drove 3 hours south, and moved into my friend's dingy old basement with literally $50 to my name. Had no idea how I was going to make it work, how I was going to afford food and rent, but I kept working on my videography skills, my storytelling skills off the momentum from that film. I took 6 months to make a 15-minute video that I thought was pretty good. I used that video as my portfolio and got a nice job, which then went out of business a year later. And from there, my whole journey is pretty well documented on this channel at this point. I'm still not that far removed from the kid that moved into a basement with $50, but man, resurfacing some of that footage and working towards finalizing this film after all these years, it really puts into perspective how much has changed. I don't even know if I owned a drill when we filmed the interior scenes of this spaceship. I think I got my first drill during that process. I remember using an old corded Bosch that we found to build all that. I don't know. I'm way more sentimental about this than anybody watching probably will be, but to me and my friends, it means a lot. It's cool that we actually are seeing this through to the end. Had a dream and made it happen, even if it turns out junk. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet, but at the end of the day, I don't know that any of us even care. It started so many journeys for all of us, and I would not trade making that ultra low budget, stupid sci-fi, over-ambitious film for anything. On that note, that is the end of the Build Days October videos for this year. Figured I'd end it on a high note, almost 20-minute video, something really different than what I usually do. It was a very fun one. And believe me, I have learned so much through this month in just production process, learning to do things faster. I've gotten so much better at filming and editing by pushing myself to try to make something every day. So all you commenting, I'm gonna be sad when October's over. Don't even worry about it. I am not going back to 1 video, 2 videos a month. Thank you very much for all your support this month. It has been a mindset changing month, a momentum building month. Even though half the videos I made were not planned at all, I am so happy with how it went. That's all. I will see you today or tomorrow with a live stream, and then very shortly after that with another video. Thank you for your time.
Not yet. We don't have a Kickstarter out, Evan. Once the Kickstarter's out, then we can start the promotion. It's all in tandem.